Over IRS Notice CP145. This is a notice you might receive from the IRS if you tried to apply an overpayment to your next tax period and the IRS was not able to do so for some reason. So one of our listeners asked me to a little bit about this notice and asked me to address his question. So basically his question was that he saw that 0.0 was applied to the next tax period, and what should he do? So we'll go through this. It's pretty heavily redacted, but I think we can kind of walk through and infer what this information is. Before we start with the notice itself, I do want to point your attention to a couple of things. So at the upper right-hand corner, you'll see some important information such as the notice number, the tax period that this covers, the notice date. In this case, there's an employer identification number. So this is for a business or maybe a trust or something. And then over here on the left-hand side, you'll see the address fields. So this should be the taxpayer name and address. So I don't think that there's anything you need to do in response to this. But in general, when you receive an IRS notice, it's important to pay attention to the notice date, because if the IRS asks you to do something, there's usually a timeline that's associated to this with this notice date. So it might be, please make payment within 21 days of the notice date. If you don't respond within so many days of the notice date, we will take this action, so on and so forth. And then the other thing that I usually point out is it's always a best practice, good idea to keep your address up to date in the IRS records. So if you've recently relocated, you can either file your next tax return and that will update your tax record. You can call the IRS, go through the phone tree and change your address over the phone, or you can file the official change of address form. So for individual taxpayers, that would be IRS Form 8822. For business owners, that would be IRS Form 8822-B. So with that said, let's go through this notice and kind of break down what it means. So, if there are any forms of schedules mentioned in this video, we'll be sure to post links in the show notes. Changes to your, let's call it your 2008 Form 1041, amount applied to the next tax period. So our viewer said that there was 0.0, and then it breaks down. Here's the request to apply however much of your overpayment to your next tax period, and we're only able to apply this amount. So in the case of our taxpayer, basically they weren't able to apply anything to the next tax period. So you don't need to do anything. You can keep the notice in your records. But if you think that the IRS missed a payment and that you should be credited the full amount, then you would need to call the 800 number. So presumably this is the same phone number as this. So you can either call the IRS or you can contact them through this slip via mail, and then you would include any correspondence here. There are directions, so write your tax ID number, the tax period, the form number on your correspondence. So all of that information should be here, and it should be on each page of the correspondence that you're sending. So if you made an error on your tax return, if you owed taxes on another account, if there was a penalty that was charged, the IRS should send a notice to update that. That might not be apparent in this notice, so you should see another notice coming down that might explain if you made a mistake. If for some reason there's a condition on your account that doesn't allow your credit to be applied, the IRS should follow up within 45 days, again, of the date of the notice. So this is their action item. And if you don't hear back from them within that 45-day period, you should call the IRS. And finally, the last part of this, there's a link to the IRS website, a page that's dedicated to addressing this notice. So there's a little bit more information. Usually there's usually it's duplicative. But in this case, I did preview this page. There are some pretty decent FAQs, but generally speaking, if you don't understand what the IRS did or you don't agree with it, then you should contact them at that toll-free number. It says within 60 days. I'm sure most people would probably do it much quicker than that. So you should call the IRS. You would mention that you received a CP145 notice and that you would like to go over your account. Make sure that you have that as well as your tax return and any of your records that you feel like you might need before you make that phone call. So if the IRS misapplied a payment, then you can contact the IRS. You can have your documentation, and they'll discuss the issue with you with more guidance. If you need to make a correction to your account, you might need to file an amended tax return. So, generally speaking, your conversation with the IRS should mirror whatever follow-up notice that they send you. So you're just kind of getting ahead of that. But the bottom line is, this is probably going to be a notice where not all the information's right there. You can either wait for a follow-up notice to be sent to you, or you can contact the IRS and get ahead of it. And then you can also contact the taxpayer advocate. You can call one of these 800 numbers. You can also request the taxpayer advocate by filing IRS Form 911. So we'll put links in the show notes to all of those resources. Amended tax return, IRS Form 911. There are a couple of other links here. So, if you needed to authorize someone to contact the IRS on your behalf, usually people might do this if they're working with a CPA that works with the IRS, or if you have an attorney, you can authorize one of those people or a family member, an enrolled agent, to contact the IRS on your behalf by filing IRS Form 2848. That's the power of attorney form. So you're probably not going to get a lot of satisfaction by reading this notice. Just know that this is probably a prompt for you to contact the IRS to get more information. So you can either respond by mail, or you can call the IRS, or you can just wait for any follow-up notices that may be in your inbox within the next 6 weeks or so. So I think that covers it. We'll just go back real quick and kind of go over it. So as I mentioned, we'll put links in the show notes to resources we've created about some of the forms that were mentioned here. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see covered in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.